Hello, everyone. I'm William Rader. Welcome to another free community Zoom session. Today, we are going to be talking about our latest deck, the Rosenwald Tarot, which is being created and recreated by Krisztina Kondor. So this deck is completely made by hand from the 15th century Italian tarot deck. Now, there's two sheets that have been found for this deck. One of these sheets just looks like dirt. You really can't make it out. And the other sheet has the 21 cards on it. So let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen and show you what these 21 cards look like from this sheet. So I'm going to share my screen for us right now so that everybody can see this. These are the cards that Kristen is working with. So this is the Rosenwald sheet. And you can see, if we zoom in, we have all of these beautiful details that Kristen can work with. So here we have the full sheet. We start over here with Judgment, followed by the world, the sun, the moon. And if you're familiar with the Tarot de Marseille, I think you're going to probably recognize a lot of the images that are here. And we're going to be talking about some of these images as we go through, but I want you to pay special attention to the Wheel of Fortune, which is this card over here. You're going to see that some of this card is missing. And also, if you notice, you might see that there's no Fool card in these cards, in this sheet. You can see we've got the Magician here, but there's no Fool card. And people believe that because during this time period, the Fool just wasn't in existence for this deck. And you can also see that, the Magician is marked number 1. And in the Tarot de Marseille, the Fool isn't even numbered. And so either the Fool is missing from this sheet, or people believe that there just wasn't a Fool with this deck. And so we're going to talk about the Fool and what Kristen's solution is for that card. So this is the sheet, just keep this in mind. Now, what Kristen does first to recreate these is she's first going to trace these images of the cards. And this is so that these cards are as original as what you see right here on this sheet. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to show you now the sheet that she traces. So it looks like this. Right here. So on this sheet, she traces the cards, and you can see we've got like the Hermit here, we've got the sun here, the moon here. She traces these with a soft lead pencil, and then that allows her to transfer these images to a wood block, because originally these images were carved from a wood block. And so that's what Kristen wanted to recreate with her deck. So here we have the images on this paper. After she's got this, she gets her wood block, which looks like this. And she's already transferred some other images from another tarot deck onto this. But what she does is she takes this tracing of the cards, she puts it here, and then she presses the imagery onto the wood. And once that's there, she now has the image that she can now carve. So I'm just going to get this close so everybody can see it. So this is what it looks like after she transfers the design to the block. And then this is what she uses to then carve the images. So that's what the next step is. In order to carve these, she actually uses these tools. So these are the tools that she uses. She has the knives over here and the chisels over here. These knives she uses for the lines, and then the chisels is what she uses to remove the wood. And so you can see she's got them in different sizes, different shapes to help her make these cards. So that's what she uses here. Now, when she starts carving, she's eventually left with this. Now, this is the wood block itself. You can see it's quite large. This holds 12 cards to a sheet. So she uses 2 blocks actually for this. And if you see, if I hold it up here, you can see the details. Now this is already black because she's already been doing printing on this sheet. And so after she has all of the details and the designs here, what she does is she takes ink and a roller and she rolls the ink onto the wood block. And she just makes sure that she gets an even coating over all of the wood block. And then she has markers here and here, which tells her where to lay down the paper on the block itself to then print the card. And so this is how the printing process works. After she inks everything, she takes the paper, she lines it up with the marks that she has here, and then the paper goes down. Of course, she does it way more carefully than I just did. After the paper is on the ink, she uses this, which is a baron. This is what this is called. And she pushes it like this to print the ink onto the paper. And then after everything is pressed down evenly, she can carefully release the paper from the ink, from the block, and she's left with these images. And these images are the same and the same orientation as what I showed you online from that sheet. These are exactly the same. And so that's what this looks like after she prints them. Now, as far as carving goes, so she carves the cards, of course, here. And she's also carving for the box, because these cards will come in a box. She's also carving, this is for the outside of the box. This is going to be the pattern for the box. And it's also going to come in with a strap, which is going to be here. So you can see it's actually, for you, it's actually the right way because of the camera. But this is printed in reverse. So when she puts the paper on, it will be as you see it now. But since we've got the camera trickery going on, you actually will see it the right direction. And so this is what she uses for the strap, for the box, and then for the cards. And of course, on this side as well, she's printed the other cards. Or she's carved the block to print the other cards. Excuse my wording there. Okay, so once she has this sheet, it's got to dry for several days. And after it dries, she begins to make the cardstock. And so to make the cardstock, it's very involved. We have 5 different sheets of paper that she uses. So she starts with this black piece of paper here. And this black piece of paper is used so that you can't just see through the cards. So this black sheet is then sandwiched by 2 other pieces of paper. So it looks like this. So we have the black piece of paper sandwiched between 2 other pieces of paper. And then she glues these together with a brush. And this glue is made out of starch. So this is a homemade glue that she makes. This is glued, and she uses this to get out all of the air bubbles. Then this is added, which is the fronts of the card. And then another piece is added for the back of the card. Now, during this time period, the backs of the cards didn't have any back design. It was just pure white. And so in the same way, she's using a piece of paper for the back design with no design on the back. And then the cards, the front of the card is then glued to this. So all together, we end up with this layered stock that creates the cardstock, that gives it that rigidity. And then she makes sure all of the air bubbles are out, and then she presses this so that everything is going to be nice and glued together. Now, after this is complete, she then soaps the cards. And to soap the cards, she uses Marseille soap, which is this. And to use this, she adds a little bit of water. She takes a brush and she puts a thin coat of soap on the cards. After that is dry, she'll then apply a second layer, and then she will polish it with the back of this spoon. Now, she said during that time period, they would use marble to polish it. She's using a spoon. And this just gives it a really nice finish as she is polishing these cards. And she'll do that on the front side and also on the back side. And this allows the cards to have a very smooth feel when you're using them. So after the cards are soaped, she then is able to cut the cards into the tarot cards that I am about to show you. So let's take a look at these. So this is the box that they'll come in. Now, as I said before, I showed you the print. This is just a prototype, and it's going to have a pattern that looks like this all around the outside of the box here. So that's what that's going to look like. This is my favorite part. Here on the inside, we have this. So that was the Rosenwald that I showed you earlier from the block, right here. And then this strap just comes down. And she's created a wrap for this. And if we see this here, you can see it just unfolds like this. And inside, we have the cards. Now, these are the 22 cards from the Rosenwald deck. And I'm going to show you some of them now so you can kind of get a feel for what these look like and how they might compare to your other Tarot de Marseille decks. And these have a lot of interesting features, which I will point out as we go along here. Now, these have been soaped, so you can see that these are very, very smooth. They're very nice to touch and to feel. They spread very nicely as well. And so this soap that she adds really does add a lot to protect the cards and also for their usability. And so here we have the star. This is interesting because I think we're traditionally used to the star being having a lady on it. But here we just have the star itself. Here we have, this is force or strength. And you can see that there's no lion here, that there's just this pillar. And this you actually see a lot in the older decks. There's a pillar here for strength. Here we have temperance. And we still have the water pouring from one jug to the other jug. We've got justice, which I think is very familiar if you're familiar with the Tarot de Marseille. We have my favorite, the magician. Now, earlier I was saying that there's no fool in this deck. And a lot of people think that possibly the fool and the magician, pardon me, that the fool and the magician were possibly combined because of this hat that he's wearing. Kind of looks like the fool's hat from the Tarot de Marseille. So it's possible that these were combined for these earlier cards. We have death here. Now, what's interesting about death is that, for one, he's on a horse, but two, you see these two figures laying here. And in cards such as Noble or Dodal, those, you don't see the bodies of the people, but you still have two heads that are on the ground. And so this is very familiar to us if we read with Tarot de Marseille. Here we have the devil. And this is kind of a unique take on the devil because there's no little minions or two people down here. It's just the devil himself. And then we have here the tower, which is very, very similar. We have the lover. And now what's interesting about the lover is that there's only two people at the bottom. You know, we might be used to three people with this person in between two others, but here we just have one person kneeling and one person standing, as well as, if you can see here, Cupid is also blindfolded. So once again, that's very familiar to us with the Noble deck, for example, these type 1 Marseille decks where Cupid is blindfolded. And now let's talk about the Fool card, because the Fool card didn't exist in these. So what Kristen wanted to do is she really wanted to respect the tradition of the tarot. And this is the card that she created for the Fool. And this is really for modern standards because we're used to the Fool. We've got the Fool card here. Now, this card is really inspired by the Visconti Fool. And I'm going to show you what that looks like right now, the Visconti Fool. So I'm going to share my screen again. So here we have the Visconti Fool. This is where, this is once again from the 15th century. And so this Fool is very similar to what she's created. For one, you can look at the boots. He's kind of walked through his boots here. He's got the feathers in his hair, and he's got this possibly either staff, or he's got this bag that's over his shoulder. And so this is what the Fool looks like in the Visconti Tarot. And this is also an Italian deck. So once again, I'm going to show you again what Kristen has made. So this is the Fool that she's created for this deck. And actually, if you look at this, I really like this because it just shows that this is, for example, the devil. And I think side by side, you would never even know that this card wasn't original to this deck. I think she's done a very, very good job at making this card just blend in and look like this is a part of the set. I think if you didn't tell anybody, they would think that this would be original. Now let's talk about too the other card. Remember earlier when I showed you the Wheel of Fortune, I showed you that it was kind of like rubbed out, right? There was a part missing. And so here, this is what she's created. This is the Wheel of Fortune, where she has kind of added the area that was missing. And once again, she didn't just guess at this. She looked at the historic images from the time period to try to recreate this as close as possible. Now, for this card, she used the Budapest Tarot, which is also from the 15th century. I want to show you what that looks like now as well. So I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to show you this. So you can see here, this is the card from the Budapest Tarot on the left. And then if we go to the right, this is the card from the Rosenwald Tarot. And if you kind of do a side-by-side comparison, you can see that these are very, very similar. We have this person upside down here. We have a figure here. And you can see here, this is a little bit different. It looks like this is of maybe a king, which would be also very similar to Tarot de Marseille decks. So she's been able to look at these cards from history and say, okay, this is probably what's going on in this missing area. So now that you see this, I'm going to go back to her card so that you can see exactly what she's done again. So this is her take on that. So you can see here, this part was missing. She's added this figure, this portion of the skirt in here. You can see the top of this king was visible, so she's filled out this area as well. And once again, by looking at this, I think she's done a really good job at keeping with the history and respecting the history of these cards. And side by side, again, I don't think you would ever know that there was something missing. And I think that's a real testament of how great an artist Kristen is. Now, one other thing, and I don't know if you can see this on camera, but talking about the soaping of the cards, this card is actually not soaped. So I don't know if you can see a difference between the two, but if we hold these side by side, this one is a little bit more white than this one. You can see they're a little bit of a shade different. And so this is what the soaping does. It does make them a little bit of a different color once that's been applied. And then the back, of course, this is the back. Now you might notice on the one that's not soaped, we've got these black marks appearing. And what happens when they're not soaped, if you put the cards on top of each other like this, the ink comes off on this other side. And so soaping them not only makes them feel nicer to handle, it actually protects the cards and keeps the ink from transferring from the cards either on your hands or to the backside of the cards. And so this soaping process really does add to the longevity of these cards. And so you can see why this takes so much time for her to create. There's so much going on, and not only the creation of the cards of the images themselves, you know, with the Fool and with the Wheel of Fortune, and just making sure everything is how it should be. But there's also time in the process of printing each card on the wood block, and then making the cardstock, adding the soap, making the box, making the little strap. She created this fold just for this deck. So it's very beautiful. And then this card box to protect everything. And so I think we're both very proud. I'm really proud of her work here in creating this deck. So if you have any questions, I am going to pop into the chat just to see, because I know we've covered a lot here, just to see if anybody has any questions or if anybody wants to see something maybe that I might have gone over a little bit too quickly. So I'm just going to, like I said, go to the chat here and just see what people are saying. Just going to scroll back here. Okay, so Kathleen asked, so when she carves the images, are they reverse? So they'll print in the correct orientation. Yes, so she's carved the images so that when they're printed, they're going to be in the same orientation as what you see on the original sheet. So they're not going to be mirrored in that regard. They're going to be the same as you see on the original sheet. But what's interesting is the original sheet that you see, some people think that that is actually reversed. So yes and no to your question, if that makes sense. So let me go here. I'm just looking through the questions. People say, beautiful work, Krisztina, great. Okay, so are these the same size as the original deck? Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, so these cards are the same size as the original cards, and I believe that's 5 by 9 centimeters. Now you can go to our website, that's just artisantarot.com, and then go to shop and then click on the Rosenwald Tarot deck. And from there, you can see the product, and you can actually see the description of the card size. But yes, she created these in the same size as the originals. And once again, they look like this. So I'm going to go through. Oh yeah, Krisztina answered it right here. She says, hi, Kathleen. Yes, I have to carve the mirror image into the block. So the print is going to look the same as the original Rosenwald sheet. And then she went on to explain better than myself. The original sheet itself is actually mirrored, which you can see if you look at the Roman numerals. And so here, there's Roman numerals on the card here, for example. And you can see that this is reversed. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. And yes, the cards are true to the original size. They are 5 by 9 centimeters. Great, thank you for answering that, Krisztina. Okay, so let's just continue here. She's answering another question. She says, the box and cards that you can see are prototypes. She had to do touch-ups to some of the lines. The final cards are going to look mostly the same. And other people are saying, Krisztina, you've done an amazing job. These are wonderful and such hard work too. Great. So this is a great question. Do these cards need to be re-soaped with use? So Krisztina says, yes, they need soaping from time to time, depending on how often you use them. That's a great question. Great. I'm just going through the Other people are saying, great work. Yeah. So what we're going to do, I'm confused, what would soaping mean? So I'll just show you again, and Christine, if you want to explain this better than me, feel free to do so. But she takes this soap here. So this is Marseille soap. And then she gets it just a little bit wet to kind of make almost like a paste, but cream. It's not like super watery, just a little bit of wetness. And then you add this with a brush to the cards. And then after that's been applied, you take a spoon or another hard surface, you put it on glass, marble, and then you polish the soap onto the cards. And that really gets into all of the little areas, the pores on the paper, and it really makes them really, really smooth. So Tom asks, at some point, would it be possible to get a video showing the actual soaping process? That's a great idea. I believe Kristen might be working on a video. Oh yeah, right here. She says that, yes, I'm making a video recording as she makes the deck. She will include the soaping too. Yeah, great. So I think that'll be very helpful for you to understand how to re-soap these cards. Let's go through these questions again. Alejandro says, Kristina's work is truly remarkable and executed with meticulous care. The captivating aspect of this deck lies in its adherence to the ancient techniques employed when tarot was born, making the creative process all the more intriguing. Yeah, I agree completely. When she was showing me this process, one, I was just amazed by it, but two, I was really shocked by the complexity of everything that's involved to make a deck of cards. I think kind of today we're spoiled by, you just send it to the printing press, they print them, and mass produce thousands of decks, and then we get them back. And these were really, crafted. It really took artists a lot of work to make these cards. Yeah. So let's see any other questions here. So Lynn asks, do we sell the soap? So I will let Krisztina answer the questions about the soap. She says that you can buy it online. Yes. And if you have any questions about these cards, you can always shoot us an email. It's artisantarot@gmail.com, or you can also go to artisantarot.com and you can send us an email on our contact form. So if you have any questions about these cards, these Rosenwald cards, feel free to send us a message. So Krisztina says that she didn't make the soap herself. You can buy it online. Yeah, great. So what we're going to do for those people that have joined, Krisztina is going to make 5 more of these decks available to purchase right now. So if you saw these cards, you like these cards, you can go to artisantarot.com and click on the shop link. And then that deck is going to be the first thing that you see in our store. So we'll go ahead and make 5 available for everyone right now. And then if you miss out on these 5, don't worry, because we are going to be releasing these, like I said, in batches. So if you're watching this video on replay, then feel free to go check to see if any of these cards are available. If not, please type in your email. It'll say sold out, but then underneath that, there's going to be a field for a wait list. So if you put your email there in the wait list, we are going to notify you first before everybody else that we have more cards available or more decks available. And like I said, we're going to release these in batches between 5 to 10 decks every time that she's making more and more of these cards. So you can go and take care of that right now if you'd like to pick these up. And also, I just want to point this out because this is interesting. These cards, because there's so many layers here, the cards are actually a lot thicker than like your standard tarot card. So I don't know if you can see this on camera, but this is kind of like after they've been glued together, you can see the different layers. But as together, so this is 22 cards plus an information card. This is the thickness of the cards. And so it's a little bit deceiving, right? And the thickness of these. So this is what they look like. And because this cardstock, you can see, I just want to show you the rigidity. So it's about like this. And so these are just, like I said, very well made, and I think they'll really handle well and they'll last quite a while if you want to use these, which I think you should. So do we have any other questions about the Rosenwald Tarot made by Kristen? Tom says, I was thinking they look like a lot more cards worked together. Yeah, exactly. And that's just because that thickness that really is deceiving here. Yeah. So Tom says he'll be ordering a copy in the next couple of batches. Awesome. Great. And I will show you really quickly because this is cool. I'm just going to show you how everything goes back together. So this is the wrap. So we put these cards in the middle like this. And from here, you just have to push on these sides like this. And then everything folds like this. And then after it's folded up, you can put the wrap back on, the strap back on, and then put it back inside the deck or back inside the box. So that's how this is. You can store it and keep the cards safe. Very cool. Okay, I'm just going to see if we have any other questions here. Okay, great. So Lynn asks if we know if these cards were ever colored. That is a great question. I do not believe that we really know that because the only two sheets that are available, of course, aren't colored. And that's because the sheets are really, they were actually, I think, found in the backs of books. They were found being used for other things. And so the cards that you see weren't even like, the sheets that you see weren't even the final cards. And these are the only ones that have lasted over time because they were used for other things that then they were discovered in those things. And so really, we don't have any evidence of these being colored other than just what you see on the sheets. And so that's why she's made them this way without the colors, just to keep them as true to the originals that she can. Stephen says the fold is genius. Yes, and she spent quite a while just, like I said, creating the really beautiful fold for these. So Kathleen asks, do you sell the soap too to maintain the cards with? Krisztina said that you can get that soap online. We don't sell it ourselves, but you can find the Marseille soap online. And Lynn said, oh yeah, you can find this soap for about $15. Great. So Alejandro says, I know the Rosenwald sheet only features the trump cards, but do you plan to recreate the minor arcana as well? As far as I know, I don't believe that she has a plan to create the minors with this deck, but I'll let her answer that question in the chat just to make sure. But I don't believe that there's any plan to do that. I think this right here is the deck that she is recreating. Great question. Tom says he went from not liking majors only decks to now owning several, partially thanks to Artisan Tarot. That's awesome, Tom. You know, and I tell people this a lot, that I traditionally just read with the 22 major arcana myself. And so I think you can read with the minors, of course, you can read with any deck. I've just found that the majors, just there's so much to work with within those cards that I really like working with just the majors myself. And so that actually is a great segue to our next segment, which is really just showing you our course and how you can access that. That's completely free, where you can learn more about the Tarot de Marseille majors. So I'm going to pop in and share my screen again so that you can just see what we have going on in our Trumps course. So to get to our Trumps course, you're going to just go to artisantarot.com. And from here, you can go to the courses segment. So you can just click on courses here. From here, you're going to see that right now we have 2 available. We've got a full course that's paid, and we have this free trump cards course. You can go ahead and click on this. And then from here, you can click sign up. And you don't need to enter your credit card. You don't need to do anything like that. You can just click sign up. And then from here, you can create an account, and this will give you immediate access to the course. Now, I already have access, so I'm just going to go to account, and then I'm just going to log in. Let's see if this works. Yes, so I'm logged in. From here, you can see I actually am enrolled in both courses here, but I can just click view on the Marseille Trump Cards course, and this is going to take us right inside of the course. So here you can see we have the course information, and then we have all of the trump cards listed here. Now, this course covers the Noblet and the Dodal, which are type 1 Tarot de Marseille decks, and also the Nicholas Convert deck, which is a type 2 deck. So from here, at any point, we can just click on one of these lessons, just go to the Magician here. And so this is the information that you're getting. You're going to see an image which shows all 3 cards. We have I've written a little quote here that has to do with the meaning of the card, just something to think about, something to consider. And then we have a description where we talk about the history of the card and we talk about the meaning. And a really huge thanks to Marilyn from Tarot Clarity for helping with this. Also Jeremy Weiss from the Temple of Miriam. Here we've got keywords, comparisons. Now these comparisons are comparisons between these 3 cards, because I think this is really fun, and kind of what we did with the Rosenwald deck. I was kind of pointing out some things like, oh, the Lover card only has 2 people instead of the 3. And so I think this is really fun because when you're reading the cards, each card has a bit of a different meaning based on what's taking place. And I think this is just really something fun to think about, and which is why I like rotating through different decks, because it always keeps my imagination and my eyes fresh. So we have comparisons here which talk about the differences in the cards. And then we have questions to consider. And this is really designed to help you use your own intuition. And some people think that there might be a right answer or a wrong answer to these, but there's really not. These are just questions for you to really think about to see where your intuition leads you. And so I really, really suggest working through these questions and answering them for yourselves. And sometimes they might have multiple answers. For example, although the table appears steady, it only has 3 legs. What does this mean? And so if you look here, there's only 3 legs. What might that mean? And I think maybe it could mean he's crooked. Maybe he's using his magic to prop up the table. Who knows, right? But I think these details are really important to consider when you're working on the Tarot de Marseille. And so we can just complete and continue. And then that takes us to the next lesson on the Popus. Once again, we've got the quote, information, etc., etc. At any time, just for navigation, if you're getting lost, you can come here, click this, and this will take you to all of the lessons if you kind of want to skip around, or if you want to go, oh, I don't remember what the star was about. Remember, we talked about the star. Here's the star in this deck. And so instead of just the star being in the front and center, we now have a lady pouring out 2 pitchers. So you can see how the Rosenwald from the 15th century is now kind of evolving in the 16th and 17th century. So once again, you can go complete and continue. At any time you want to go back, you just click this, and you'll go back to the main page where you can view all of the lessons again. And as you complete these, they just get checked off here like this. and you can see how you're completing it. Now, I think that you shouldn't just go through these lessons like in one setting. I think you really should spend about a day on each card. And this is what I've done several times. You take the Magician, you look at the 3 cards, you kind of ponder on their possible meanings, and then you can work on day 2 with the Popist, day 3 with the Empress, and so on and so forth to really create these meanings and getting these ideas for yourself. Because I think as readers, a lot of times we are regurgitating the same things that we're hearing every other person say about these cards. And I think at some point, to really be able to stand out as a reader, to stand out as yourself and give advice as yourself for your sitters, it's really important, because people are coming to you for your perspective. So if you're just going through a guidebook and saying what those mean, that's not coming from you. And so I think that's why this is so important, to sit down with these cards and really be introspective about the cards and what they mean for you. And hopefully this course right here will help you do that. So that is, once again, completely free, where we're talking about all of the trump cards from the Tarot de Marseille. So that's what I wanted to show you here, just to help you if you're new with Tarot de Marseille, if you're looking to review. I think this is a great tool for you to use. So with all of that in mind, I'm just going to go back to the chat to see if we have any other thoughts or any other questions. It can be about the course. It could also be about the Rosenwald Tarot, if you want to ask about that. So Lynn says, the course is amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Taya says, I love the Mages from Artisan Tarot, focusing my readings and grounding it. Great. Yeah, I know, Taya, you've been using the Marseille cards with other Oracle cards, with other tarot cards, kind of mixing and matching your decks, which I think is a great idea too. We'll just see here. Is this different from the Tarot de Marseille keywords for the trump cards presentation course, just more in depth? So we do have kind of a page that we built out where it lists all the keywords. And then we also have our full course, which includes what I've just shown you here, which is a write-up of all of the cards. But that full course also includes reading, I guess, ways to read the cards through storytelling. So it's more in depth in that regard. And then also we have a lot of examples from real readings that I've given, where I say, here's a 3-card spread. Here's how I would read these cards. Here's the question. Here's how I would read it. And then we would say, here's a 1-card reading. Here's the question that I received. Here's how I answered it and helped this person. And so the full course includes what I've just shown you, as well as about, I don't know, maybe 10 plus hours of video instruction and a lot more in the full paid course. So this is just a small excerpt that I've pulled from that because I really want to make the Tarot de Marseille more accessible for everyone, because I'm just a huge fan of these cards, and we really want to bring these and make them more popular again. So great question, Tony. Hopefully that answered it. So Krisztina answered about the creation of the minors with these cards. She says, Alejandro, I'm not planning on creating the minor arcana. I'm waiting for the original sheets to be found. So who knows, right? More and more cards are being found all the time. Actually, a new deck was just found that predates some of the earlier cards like Noble. And so I think that's really exciting when these cards are found, because once again, we can compare and we can see how these cards evolve over time. And I really think that's what's so special about these cards, is how they've possibly evolved over time. So I'm just going to show you the sheet again for the Rosenwald, and we'll just point out a few things. So here we have the world, for example, and you can see instead of this individual being inside the wreath, we now have a city inside, and we have this person outside. We also don't have the animals on this card. We have the sun. There's no people in the sun card. And the moon card, it's only the moon. There's no figures here either. let's just keep going down here. We've got the charioteer, which is very similar. There's no canopy. We've also got, this is very interesting because some people say that the hangman, this represents a traitor. And it's possible that this could be Judas Iscariot from the Bible, because perhaps he's holding the sacks of money in his hand right here. But you can see over time, like the Tarot de Marseille image of the hangman doesn't have these sacks in his hand. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune again, which has 4 figures on it. And in Tarot de Marseille, there's only 3 figures on them. And so somewhere down the line, one of these figures was removed, taken away. And then here you can see the emperor, the empress, the pope, the popess down here on the bottom. And they've got these like globes, which is also very interesting in their hands here, but no shields. And as we know, the Tarot de Marseille, these characters have a shield with them. And also interesting, that kind of looks like I'm not sure what that is. Is that a key? Is that I don't know, but that's very interesting, right? I think there could be a lot of interpretations for that. So once again, I think this is just fun to look at these cards and think about the different meanings that these cards could have in comparison to the Tarot de Marseille or the Rider-Waite-Smith, because the more you compare and contrast these cards, then the more I think that you begin to learn about different ways to read the cards, right? I think this is just a great exercise for you. Taya says, interesting that the world is basically an angel. Yes, and not a woman or a man, right? And then I think in later decks, that was supposed to represent Jesus with his 4 disciples, like the Mandela, with the 4 disciples around him. And so, I'm sorry, here, the 4 disciples around him, and we just don't have that here. And Taya says it looks like a key for the Pope. Yeah, looks very similar, doesn't it? Great. So I think if that might be all of the questions that we have, we'll give everybody another minute. But I do want to thank everybody for joining us here. We do these every 3rd Saturday of the month. And this is just the time where we share new products. We might share updates. We might bring in guest speakers like Z Manzilla or other people to show off what they're creating, what they're working on, and just to hang out with all of you. So if you've got questions, you can just chat with us, and we are happy to share all of the things that we're working on here at Artisan Tarot. Okay, great. Well, it was a pleasure presenting Kristen's new Rosenwald Tarot deck. We really hope you'll like it. Thank you for joining us here for another free community Zoom session. We're so glad you joined us, and we hope to see you in the next one in December. So thank you all very much for joining us today.